Okay, there we go. It was taking a second to allow me to go live. It didn't do it the first couple tries, so I was wondering if I just lost the ability to go live or because it's been so long. I don't know. But it is working. We are here, and I'm excited. It's been a while since I've done a live. So welcome to the first live in a while. If you are new here, my name is Connor Hansen. This is going to be kind of a Myth Bust Monday, is that kind of a new series that I wanted to start because I think it's really important to bust some of the fitness myths that are out there in the world. Like I said, my name is Connor Hansen. I'm a health and fitness coach, primarily online. If you don't know me, I help regular people, specifically moms and dads, lose weight, get in the best shape of their life while still enjoying that life. And as well as that, learning how to maintain those results long term, because my big thing is you should only have to lose weight once, unless you are a mother that has had children, and sometimes it takes a little second to lose that weight, but that baby weight again. My wife was in that same boat, and she's doing an incredible job. So yeah, you should only have to lose weight once and then be able to maintain that long term, because you should learn how to do that indefinitely throughout the process. So today I wanted to talk about meal timing, right? There's a lot of myths around meal timing, if it's important, if it's not important. You shouldn't eat after a certain time. You should only eat before a certain time, whatever the case is, right? So that's what we're going to talk about today is, does meal timing, when you actually eat the food, matter? So it's a question that I get periodically and something that I talk with my clients about, because especially I feel like anybody older than like 30 or above, I feel like there was a lot of misconception around either intermittent fasting, which we'll talk about, or not eating after a specific time. So if you're watching live, do hashtag live in the comments, helps a ton. Doing hashtag replay if you're watching it replayed after the fact. And then also, if you are here, let me know if my audio is working. I've done a couple lives in the past where the audio was just complete crap. So somebody that is currently watching can say good audio or crap audio, just that way that I know. And then if you're live, hashtag live. If you're on replay, hashtag replay. Awesome. Thank you for being here live. Okay, cool. So Zoom. Oh, sometimes when I say okay and then cool, my phone thinks that I call upon Google, which I don't. So I apologize about that. I'll try to not say that phrase. So overall calories, honestly, is the only thing that matters in terms of, sounds good. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Overall calories is the main thing that matters. Reason being is because your body is going to digest and utilize what you have, what you're consuming, right? Your body is really, really intuitive that way. So whether let's say you are trying to eat 2,000 calories, whether you eat those 2,000 calories in a single meal, or you spread those out through 6, 7, 8 meals throughout the day, it's going to be the same. So if you're trying to lose weight and you do a calorie deficit and you eat all those calories in one meal versus many meals, it's going to be the exact same. There's a huge misconception about, the anabolic window around strength training or not eating after a specific time. So what I want you to kind of focus on is focusing on eating certain types of macronutrients during the day can optimize like performance as well as satiation, so keeping you fuller during specific times. So we'll kind of go over a couple of examples, just that way the more examples I feel like we go over, the more it can make sense in your brain. So when you first wake up, I'm a fan of eating. I typically train before I eat, but then as soon as I'm done training, I'll eat. But when you first wake up, right, the macronutrients that you want to pay attention to during that time are going to be proteins and fats. Reason being is your body is just in a starved state, right? Breakfast, it's the first meal of the day, you're breaking a fast. You want to focus on proteins and fats because that's going to keep you fuller for longer. Pre-workout, so before your exercise bout, usually around, I wouldn't say before, 45 minutes before you're going to go and train in some way, whether you're doing cardio or strength training, you'll want to focus on more fast digesting carbs. So think of potatoes, breads, pastas, cereals, things like that, and maybe a protein, because then those amino acids are going to be available during your workout and can provide a little bit of performing boosting. So like you're going to feel better while you're strength training if you have a little bit of something in your stomach. Some people, like myself, I enjoy training in a fasted state. I do that in the morning. That just works for my schedule, and I can consistently do that long term. If I had my perfect setup, I would probably work out in the middle of the day after I'd had like a meal or two. So pre-workout, you want to have a little bit of fast digesting carbs and then maybe a protein, but like I said, not more than 45 minutes before, or less than 45 minutes before your workout. Post-workout, you're going to want to focus on like moderate carb intake. So you definitely want to get a carb there, but something that's a little bit maybe slower digesting. Think of like whole grains, or sweet potato or something of that nature. And then protein, right? You want to make sure that you get your protein in there because that's going to help rebuild those muscles, get those amino acids in there. There's this big thing called the anabolic window, right? Bros use that a lot where like, okay, as soon as you guys have maybe seen me drink egg whites after my workout. That's only because egg whites are the only liquid form of protein that my stomach can digest, and it just works better with my schedule and everything that I'm trying to do throughout the day to be able to drink some more proteins than consume them physically. And I know that can be gross to some people. Some people have a really bad problem with it, but it really honestly just tastes like tap water, the Costco protein or Costco egg whites. So post-workout, there's really not like this insane window where you have to get your protein in. It is true that after you strength train, there is a spike in what's called muscle protein synthesis, where your body is more able to utilize protein and build your muscles, like be more susceptible to protein, more like it's looking for it more. It wants to push it into the muscles, right? Because you break the muscles down and then your body's like, okay, let's rebuild this. But there's a really common misconception that it's like 30 minutes or an hour, right? And if you miss that window, then you might as well not even eat the protein because you missed the window, which is really, really not true. It's true that muscle protein synthesis rises after strength training, but it's usually anywhere between like 24 hours to 48 hours, depending on the individual, depending on how hard the strength training was, right? There's a lot of variables. And that's one of the biggest things with nutrition and strength training is, although there is science involved, it's not an exact science, right? There's a lot of moving parts with it. So although muscle protein synthesis is raised during or post-workout, it's not as insane as people think, and it's not as crazy of a window. So post-workout should be moderate carbs, definitely some proteins. Normal meals should be balanced, right? Should have a good balance of proteins, fats, carbs. I'm not a huge proponent of lowering carbs too much. You obviously don't want to lower your fats too much because that can cause hormonal imbalances. And you want to obviously focus on proteins because proteins keep you fuller for longer. They rebuild your muscle tissue. They keep you fuller for longer. They actually tend to boost your metabolism in a way, right? Not in like a gimmicky, boost your metabolism super fast right now, but your body has to exert more energy to digest protein and utilize it than it needs to for fats or carbs. So in a way, it's metabolically, it improves your metabolism, but not in a way that like is gimmicky or dumb in that way. So your meals should be balanced. Typically, I'll put my clients on like 30% of their calories should come from carbs, 30% fats, and then 40% proteins, right? Just because we're trying to boost that, keep them fuller for longer, and it tends to change their food selection when they're trying to hit their protein mark. So before bed, protein once again, and then maybe consume fats at that point. You don't typically want to eat like a high sugary cereal or something like that, not because eating food late at night is inherently bad, right? The name of this video is Don't Eat After 6, because that's such a big misconception. People don't want to eat after a certain time because they think that all that food's going to turn to fat and whatever the case is. But remember what I said at the beginning of this video is that the main thing that matters is your calorie deficit, right? Then you want to focus on your proteins, but the overall calories is the main thing that matters in all of this. So not eating after a specific time isn't really doing you any good. The only thing that it can benefit, and this is what I talk to my clients about, is like if you're eating at 10 o'clock at night, especially like maybe like a sugary cereal or something, and then you try to go to bed, typically your body is ramped up and trying to digest that food, and then therefore your sleep can suffer. So if you can eat at 10:30 at night right before you go to bed and it's within your calories and it doesn't affect your sleep at all, awesome, more power to you. If you can consistently do that, that's great. Where it does cause some issues is if it changes your sleep at all, or if it changes if it upsets your stomach and causes GI upset, that can be not good. But like I said, the overall calories matter, not when you consume them. Just want to utilize certain macronutrients throughout the day, especially if you're on like a nutrition plan, or you're trying to lose weight, or you have different types of goals, right? You want to be smart with your calories because sometimes you're limited on those, right? And you want to make the most of it. It's all about getting the most bang for your buck. That way you can have the most success, especially in the long term. So not eating after a certain time doesn't really matter. Also, intermittent fasting. This is something that I always touch on. For some people, it works, and it works really, really well. And people can do that, and it's consistent, and it's awesome. It works with their schedule. It works with them long term. They really enjoy eating 2 big meals instead of, breakfast, lunch, and dinner and some snacks. Like, if that works for you, that is awesome. That is really great. I am all about what works for my clients, specifically long term, because what works for one person may not even work for another person. However, intermittent fasting, it's not this incredible thing. It's not this, end all. It's not like it lowers your insulin and it does this and it does that and it's so much better for growth hormone and all this stuff. All of the insulin arguments have actually been debunked pretty quickly, as well as the increase in growth hormone. It's like minimal, if anything, causes that. The biggest thing that it does is if you shorten the amount of time that you're eating throughout the day, well, then you can eat more calorie dense foods or bigger meals because you're only eating 1 or 2 meals versus eating multiple. So for my wife, she gets a lot less calories than me because she's a smaller person than me. So she needs less calories to function. And she doesn't eat until after the gym, and then she gets her, kids food and all that stuff. And so she typically doesn't eat until around like noon is her first meal, not out of trying to intermittent fast, but just that's what works best for her schedule and everything she has going on. And it works for her. For me, if I tried to go until noon to eat, I would drive myself insane because I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. You're telling me I'm waiting, you guys are going to see how bad I am at math, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 5, 6, 7 hours to eat. There's no way I'm going to be able to do that. So for me, intermittent fasting, that's just not the game plan. Could never keep that up long term. But for her, it totally works for her. Does that make sense? If that makes sense, do hashtag makes sense there in the bottom. So what I want you guys to get out of this training today is that meal timing, eating at a specific time, all of those things, all of these myths that are around it, they're just that. They're myths, right? You can utilize certain macronutrients throughout the day. You can manipulate that, and that can have some benefit. But whether you eat 2,000 calories in a single sitting or you eat 2,000 calories split into 5 different meals, it's going to be the exact same for you in terms of weight gain, weight loss, right? What matters is staying within your calories, focusing on your proteins, getting enough sleep, water, making sure your digestion is good, strength training, right? De-stressing, all of those things. Those are the things that actually matter. Your meal timing or manipulating things here and there, the reason that those have become myths is because sometimes people feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not losing weight, or oh my gosh, I'm not seeing results, or whatever. It's got to be something else. But in reality, it's just the consistency with those pillars that's going to make the difference long term. So if you have any questions, as always, throw them in the comments below. If you have an idea for a myth you want me to bust next Monday, put them down there as well. And then obviously, if you have any questions about training packages, one-to-one coaching, all of that good stuff, I would love to help you on your fitness journey, kind of become the best version of yourself. Do #info in the comments, and I will reach out and see if it's a good fit for you. How do you decide how many calories a person can have? Lindsay, good question. So there are an ample amount of calorie calculators online, right? So you can go to any website, calorie calculator, type it in, it'll ask you for your age, your weight, your height, your gender, and age, weight, height, gender, activity level. Some of the equations will use body fat. So going through all of that and finding like a starting point, so you can do that, and that's great. It's pretty complicated. Honestly, a really great way to start, and this is sometimes what I'll do for my clients, especially people that have tried doing it that other way in the past. I typically will say, okay, what is your goal body weight? So let's say you're 150 pounds and you want to be 130 pounds. I would say take your goal body weight and times that by 12. So you take 130, times that by 12, 1560. Of course, I would use a calculator. I'm terrible at math. 1560. That would be my starting point. And then I always try to get above 100 grams of protein is an incredible place to start, especially if you've never tried calculating your proteins, or you've never focused on eating proteins before, you've never done that consistently. Try to get over 100 grams of protein. Ideally, in a perfect world, you would get a gram of protein per body pound that you of your goal weight. So you do 130 grams of protein, but baby steps. So that is a really, really simple way to calculate it, is your goal body weight. So whether you get down to 130 or not, doesn't really matter, but that's like the goal. So whether, let's say in this scenario, the person that's 150 wants to get to 130 and they get to 135 and they like the way that they look, they like the way that they feel, everything is great, doesn't mean that they have to keep going to get to 130, right? It's just kind of like a starting point. So whether you get there or not is kind of irrelevant, but it gives you a starting point. But that is just a starting point. A lot of times people will get hung up on that number, and then they'll change it, and then they'll add, and then they'll subtract, and they'll do all of that. When in reality, if you were to, in this scenario, start at the 1560 and do that consistently, and be honest and truthful with yourself if you're hitting those numbers or not. And then, okay, it's not working after 3-4 weeks. Okay, dial it back a little bit, right? As long as you're being consistent and you're measuring and everything. Dial it back a little bit, maybe to 1460, and see how your body tends to respond. So that's kind of a really simplistic way. You can obviously go and do, calorie calculator online, but taking your goal body weight, timesing it by 12, and then just trying to get over 100 grams of protein is a great way to start. Awesome question. Thank you. But yeah, any other questions, put them in the comments below. You are so welcome. I'll answer those. And then any myths you guys want me to bust next Monday, throw them in there as well. #live, #replay. And I will check you guys in the next video. Have a good night.